Hello and welcome to the Horsemanship and Mindset podcast with your host, Kimberly Dunn of Idlewild Horsemanship and Mindset Coaching. This podcast is here to bring you the very best in tips, tricks, and advice to help you better understand yourself, your mindset, and your horse, because your horsemanship starts with you. Let's go. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horsemanship and Mindset podcast. I'm delighted to have you here. I hope you've had a great week, and I hope that your cruise into this new season, whether you are heading into autumn or spring, is going smoothly for you and your horses are staying relatively sane. I know that changes in the seasons definitely have an effect on our horses. So I hope that so far, so good for you, listeners. Um, so this week, I'm going to talk about something which has popped in my head a few times in the last week or so to talk about, which is our cycles. And when I say our cycles, I mean women's cycles. I have talked about this before, but I wanted to just talk about it again because it's really important. And I've said to a few friends recently, like, oh God, I'm so glad that I know about all of this now and what's going on, because otherwise I would have been really overwhelmed right now or questioning myself right now. So I just wanted to talk about this again and just explain it again, because I think it's so, so important. And it's so important for us to know in relation to our horses as well, and the time we spend with our horses, because it has an effect on them too. Um, so whether you're listening to this, whatever gender you are, whether you have a womb or don't, this is going to be helpful for you to hear, either because you know women in your life or because you are, in fact, a woman with a womb. Because this affects everyone and we should all know about it. And unfortunately, we don't. I didn't learn about my cycle and really truly connecting to my own body um, until my mid 30s. So, what am I now? 37. So, I would say I was probably around, what age was I? 34, maybe 33, 34. Um, where I actually uh, came off the pill. Um, which so a lot of this happens to a lot of us, especially kind of people around my age, where you get to your teens and you are put on some kind of contraception, whether that is the pill, whether it's, all the others, the implant, whatever. And it's just a dumb thing, isn't it? And we just do it because that's what we're told to do. And a lot of us, myself included, don't question it. And I have been on the pill since I was like 15 up until the age of kind of like early to mid 30s. Um, and I'd gotten to the point where I was actually scared to come off it because I didn't know what was going to happen. But I'd learned that actually it probably wasn't such a great thing that I was still on it. Um, and so I found a really good book, which I highly recommend, by someone called Dr. Lara Briden. And her book is called The Period Repair Manual, I think. Yeah, I'm just turning around looking at it on my bookshelf. So, so good. She's also written one for as you're heading into like perimenopause and menopause. She's brilliant. And that book has got so much helpful information in it and specifically targets like symptoms you might be having or things you might come across as you are trying to balance out your hormones. It's a whole thing. And obviously, I'm not an expert. But what I am going to do in this podcast episode is just explain to you a little bit about our cycle and how it affects us so that we can learn ourselves and we can understand, okay, I'm feeling like this. And so how's this going to affect the work with my horse? Um, and yeah, like I was saying, so I only really learned about it a couple of years ago and truly started to tune into myself and my own cycle. Um, I read this book, I made the change, I came off the pill, and suddenly I had to really turn my attention to educate myself more about women's cycles because, as it turns out, they do have quite, I mean, if you're a woman, you know this, they have quite the effect on your body, mind, and how you cope with day to day life. And then, of course, that then affects your relationship with your horses and your time with your horses. Um, and for me, like even just recently, I've noticed that um, I don't know whether it's the change in seasons or because I'm starting to get into more into my late 30s or what, but like I've noticed that I'm becoming more like when it is my time of the month, I'm finding myself like quite not depressed, but down and really negative. And so the good thing about knowing that is that I know, okay, so this is the time in my cycle where I am going to feel like this. So I'm not like, yes, I'm feeling it. And yes, I'm going to do things to help myself move through this, but I'm not gonna get dragged down by it. I'm not gonna think the world's ending. I'm not gonna quit everything, sack off the business, all the rest of it. I understand that this is where my hormones are at right now, and I'm just gonna move through it. And then sure enough, like 5 days later, I'm, like, skipping around on top of the world and everything is well again. And that's really why I wanna talk about this today is that it can have such an effect on you and such an effect on your outlook on the world. And if we think about our horses, like you might be feeling horrendous and like, oh my God, I want to quit horses. I want to sell my horse. This isn't working. I just want to give up. But it's just because you are about to head your late luteal and you're about to head into your period. And that's just where your hormones are at. And then suddenly a few days later, you're feeling okay. And that's how extreme it can be. It's not necessarily normal for you to have major, like depression. That's heading into more kind of PMDD world, which is a lot more extreme. And again, I'm not an expert on this. So I'm not going to dive too deep on it. I'm just going to kind of skim the surface. But our hormones are serious, and we really need to understand ourselves better, and understand the women around us better so that we can support each other. And like I keep saying, just work with our horses in a much more kind of compassionate way for ourselves and our horses. So let's get into it. So I'm going to now give you a kind of outline of our cycle as I understand it again. So most women's cycles are around 28 days ish. And they start on the first day of your period, so menstrual cycle day one. Around this time, you have estrogen and progesterone hormones are often at their lowest. And you might find then that your energy is at its lowest. So perhaps you might be feeling a bit more reflective, sensitive, probably less sociable. So you're much more likely to be like, nah, I don't want to go out on that hack with you guys. I don't want to go to the yard Christmas do. You're just a bit like, well, you just want to be a hermit. And this might affect your horsey time in that you feel less physically strong. I know for me personally, when it's that time, like in my yoga classes, I'm weak. I am so weak. I cannot hold a plank. Um, yeah, just no. So yeah, you might feel less strong. You might feel less motivated. So you might not necessarily want to ride. And so to work with this energy and trying to work instead of trying to work against it, try to focus on gentler activities. So maybe groundwork, some trick training, some grooming, hand walking, taking the horse out for a walk together. Or you might want to go out for a hack and just walk. Or even just hanging out together instead of like trying to push performance. And listening to your body in this way is going to help you to prevent those feelings of frustration because you can't do it, because you don't feel motivated, disconnection from yourself and your horse, and most importantly, it will help you avoid burnout. Now, one thing I just want to say here is the thing is with our time of the month as women, Um, Previously, it's been marketed as, I don't know, you see those. Sorry, if there's any men listening, this is really kind of diving deep into things maybe you don't want to hear about, but you should hear about them. So, like, if you remember those old school, like, tampon adverts where they were like, you can do anything, it doesn't matter what time of the month it is, you can go swimming, you can do karate, you can be a ninja, whether you're on your period or not, it doesn't matter, which, great. Yeah, that's good. However, I think what that's kind of pushed on us is this narrative that it doesn't matter where we are in our cycle, we should still push on, which is a very kind of masculine projection onto us. And this also happens, like, if you think about the cycle of the year, we get to winter and we're still being told to push, 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 when actually it's a time where we should be slowing down and being a bit more reflective. And it's the same in our cycle. Like, we should not be pushing, pushing, pushing. Like, when it's our time of the month, we should actually be just slowing down a bit. I say should, I'm shoulding a lot here, but um, if we're thinking about working with our cycles, with our bodies, it makes sense for us to slow down. So this is your permission slip. It's your time of the month. You can slow down. Um, okay. So then we move out of the menstrual phase and into follicular. So estrogen is now on the rise, which will start boosting your energy again. So you start feeling a little more energetic, a little more confident, a little more motivated. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Um, at this time, you might find your focus is sharper. You will feel more enthusiastic, confident, motivated, and open to new challenges and adventures. So, for your horsey time, this is a really, really good time to learn new skills, to put lessons in, or try something that you've been avoided. So, I don't know, maybe, um, I don't know, a certain hack or some kind of lesson that you've been ducking out of. Because your confidence is going to be naturally higher right now, which is going to make it easier for you to just say yes to, hacking, schooling, or going to a clinic or a competition or something. So then, around kind of, let's say, 10-ish days into your cycle, depending on you, of course, this all depends on each individual, you have ovulation. So, spoiler alert, you might hear in my energy right now, like, I am in ovulation. Didn't everybody just want to know that? Well, you know it now. During this time, estrogen peaks and there's a brief pop up in testosterone. So you will be feeling strong, social, confident, and ready and raring to go. So, another example for you, I was at my yoga class this morning. I was bossing the planks. I was like on it, all over it, because I'm feeling strong, because I've got that little peak in testosterone right now. You'll also be feeling, you may be able to tell, a little more energetic, a little more kind of sparky and chipper, and ready and raring to go. You will find it easier to communicate, to be assertive, to be bold and clear, and your physical energy and motivation is going to be sky high too. This is a great time to be a woman, guys. um, so you're going to be glowing. You're just on it. You're skipping around. Everything's good. So this is the ideal time to get out with your horse and do fun things with your friends, have group lessons, just generally get things done. So, in an ideal world, if we could plan like our competition calendar around our cycle, oh, wouldn't that be amazing? This would be the time to go compete because you're feeling confident, you're assertive, you're positive, like, off you go. So, yeah, that is a great time. It's just a great time. Okay, and then you're gonna cruise into luteal. Oh, this is where things start to slow down. Oh. So you cruise then into luteal. So luteal is like a bit longer here. Again, it depends on each person. And for me, I'm kind of around 2 weeks in luteal. So the first part of luteal is where things start to slow down, progesterone starts to rise, and then it will drop immediately before menstruation. So This first week, you'll kind of feel a bit calmer, more grounded, maybe a bit more reflective. I would say this time you're kind of feeling, quote unquote, like normal, just kind of everything's just okay, everything's fine, you're just cruising along, like a bit more mellow, perhaps. Um, then the second half of uh, luteal is the sad time, literally. So that is where energy will dip, irritability comes out, self doubt. That's my big one. That's how I know. Like, I'll wake up one morning and I'll be like, oh, why isn't this working? Or I feel rubbish. Or what am I? Why do I bother? Or and then I'm like, oh, okay, I know what's happening right now. So, yeah, basically, all the not nice feelings. That's when they start to creep in. So with your horse time, the early luteal phase is really great for like steady, consistent training. So maybe keeping up with your routine and building on those foundations that you set up in follicular and ovulation. So when you head into that late luteal, so PMS time, basically, patients might be thinner and anxiety and self doubt levels are much higher. And so this is a really, really good time to just slow down. Slow down. Cut yourself some slack. Please cut yourself some slack here. Again, we don't need to keep pushing ourselves. And try not to push yourself or your horse too hard. It is never worth it. Um, and self compassion is really, really key here. So, nice, like supportive, nice activities like hacking, again, gentle hacking, liberty work, anything that just feels low pressure and fun and nice and just like supportive to you. And I really want to just strike home here that because I know like we can have, and even as I'm talking about this now, I can feel it coming up in me. There's this like resistance to shouldn't we just be able to, keep on, keep going, no matter what time of the month it is. And that is unfortunately like this thing that's been thrust upon us over the years, that is very masculine. And I'm not going to start ranting about the patriarchy or anything or get into like feminism and yeah, I'm trying to keep this kind of not going too much into that. But that's just how society is kind of like that is now how we've been conditioned is that yes, we should keep going. When actually, if we did listen to our bodies, like we are still getting stuff done. We're just now keeping our sanity. We're keeping ourselves like mentally and physically more healthy if we work with our cycle rather than just trying to push, 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 keep going, keep going. And look, it doesn't mean that okay, so it's 5 days before my time in the month, and now it's my time in the month, and that means I stop everything. It just means you shift gears a bit, and you can still, quote unquote, get things done. You're just getting different things done. You're still making progress. You're just breaking it down more. Okay, so you don't have to sack everything off, but you can slow down. You can shift gears. This is your permission slip to do that. And I really also want to just have a home here that your cycle isn't a weakness. This isn't a weakness of ours that us women have. Yeah, it's an inconvenience sometimes. But what it is a rhythm. It's a rhythm that we have, just like the planet has, just like oops, my phone's not on silent. Apologies. Just like um the seasons of why can't I speak? Spring, summer, autumn, winter, that's us. We have that cycle too, just like the moon has a cycle. It's natural. We are natural beings. It's a part of life. Okay. And so it's not a weakness, it's just a rhythm. And working with it instead of against it, instead of in spite of it, is really, really going to help you understand why you feel so different throughout the month. And if this isn't something If this is something you already know about, great. Like, hooray. I'm so glad you do, because too many of us find out about this stuff too late, myself included. But if you haven't heard about this before, I would invite you to start thinking about it, because this is going to really help you understand yourself and feel so much more connected to your own body when you start to notice this. I'm going to talk about a couple of apps at the end that will help you with this. Um, and while it's not always possible to, wouldn't it be nice if we could book a clinic or lessons or competitions for exactly when you know you're going to feel good? Okay, so I'm ovulating on the 10th of October. This is going to be a great time for me to go show jumping. Yeah, sad times. It would be nice if we could do that when we're feeling all shiny and super duper and confident. Um, while it would be nice if we could do that, unfortunately, that's not how the world works. You can try your best to fit that in, though. But it's just so helpful for us to have this better understanding of our own bodies and taking steps to work with it instead of in spite of it. And it's just so much healthier for your body, for your mind, and for your partnership with your horse. Because how nice if we could turn up to our horses, know that we've got raging PMT and we're particularly angry with the world and anything that moves or looks at us in the wrong way. Like, to turn up to a horse and be like, okay, horse, I am white hormonal right now, so let's just go for a walk. Rather than turning up thinking, I've got to school my horse, absolutely raging inside, and then having a really grim session with your horse because your patience is wearing really thin and you're more reactive. And then your horse has felt that and has not had a fun session either. So, how nice if you could actually work with yourself so that your horse has a nice time too. So your horse doesn't see you coming. No, it's that time of the month and think, oh God. I'm not excited to work with you today. So yeah, it just makes life a little easier on both of you if you understand yourself a bit more. So I'm just going to talk now. There's a couple of apps that you will find helpful. I'm not in any way affiliated with them. I just know they're helpful. So, the best one, I'll just tell you about the best one. My favorite one is called Stardust. Um, and you can get that where you get all your apps. There is a free version. I love it because it also just talks about moon cycles and stuff as well. But it gives you like funny little messages each day. It'll be like, oh, like for me today, for instance, it was like, go and lift something because your testosterone's high today, and you're feeling strong. Like, it's quite funny. Or it'll say you need to put a sign around your neck today that says "Do not disturb," stuff like that. And it allows you to, you can put in information, you can put in how you're feeling, any physical symptoms you're having, any mental symptoms you're having, and it tracks them for you, and it starts to kind of get a feel for you and predicts your cycle as well. Um, and then, like, there's some really cool different accounts you can follow on, different socials that will help you understand yourself a bit better. One of my favorite ones is a lady, London wellness coach. She's really good. And then, of course, like the book that I would recommend to every girl, everyone ever actually, is Dr. Lara Bryden's Period Repair Manual. It's so helpful. I will pop some of that in the show notes. Yeah, so I hope you found this week's episode helpful. I know it's kind of like, for some people, perhaps seems to be a bit like off piste, and what has this got to do with horsemanship? But actually, you know, like I always say, your horsemanship starts with you. And if you have a womb, then this is going to have a big effect on how you show up for your horse. So if you can, you can understand as much as possible about that and your own hormones, because we're all so different, and how it affects you, you can start to work with it, and your horse will appreciate that. As will you and everyone around you. Because it can be tough. I know it can be tough. But knowing this information about yourself is magic, and it's so helpful. And like I said, like, I've had a few conversations with friends over the last couple of weeks where we've all said to each other, like, oh God, I'm so glad that that I understand this about myself now, because it really helps me to not think the world is literally ending or that I need to quit everything or sell everything or because those times can be tough. And if we understand, not to lean into it too much or give it too much power, then it allows us to kind of just move through things a little easier. So, yeah, I hope it was helpful. Um, as always, any questions or comments, email me at info@idlewildhorsemanship.com. I would be remiss if I did not mention that I currently have spots open for Recalibrate. So, Recalibrate is my 4 session package that provides you with the tools to better understand yourself, your nervous system, your mindset, and then we do therapy. Just press the microphone. Hypnotherapy, NLP, all of the good stuff to help totally shift your mindset and your confidence with your horse so that you can gallop off into the sunset, leaving all of your fears behind and finally enjoy your horse again. A few spots left now as we head into autumn. Pop into my DMs on the socials or send me an email and I would be happy to chat to you about it. Otherwise, have a wonderful week. Follow along if you don't already. Share this episode if you found it helpful. And I hope you're over and out.